Welcome back to The Deep Dive. We're the show that tries to cut through the noise and give you those key insights you really need. Today, we're diving deep, really deep, into some high-stakes diplomacy. We're going to unpack a specific, very impactful set of remarks from a major world leader. Our mission is to really get into what President Xi Jinping said during his recent meeting with Prime Minister Modi in Tianjin. This was, on the sidelines of the SCO summit. We want to go beyond just the headlines and understand the strategic thinking behind his words. What's the vision here for China-India relations? And what does it tell us about the bigger global picture?
Absolutely. And what's interesting about these remarks is how deliberate they feel. It's not just diplomatic small talk. It reads like a strategic statement. The specific language President Xi uses, well, it gives us a crucial window into China's long-term thinking about India and how Beijing sees both countries potentially shaping what comes next globally.
Okay, let's connect those dots then. So let's start where you started. He welcomed PM Modi, mentioned a previous meeting, standard stuff. But then he shifted gears pretty quickly, didn't he? He started painting this picture of the world stage using some quite striking phrases.
You did. Right away, he said, "The world today is one-century transformations." And followed up with, "The international situation is both fluid and chaotic."
One-century transformations. What exactly is that signaling? It sounds quite profound.
It is. It's invoking a core narrative for Beijing. This idea that the world is going through this massive, almost inevitable shift in power and how things work. It's not just a bit of instability. It subtly frames the current chaos not as anyone's fault necessarily, but as this big historical wave. And in that context, China and India become potential architects of something new.
Okay. So positions them as responding to history rather than causing the turbulence. Interesting. And the fluid and chaotic part.
Well, that just amplifies the sense of, unpredictability. Everything's up in the air. And if you're Xi or Modi, hearing that acknowledged makes your own bilateral relationship seem even more critical, right? It suggests working together isn't just nice, it's almost necessary for stability, a potential anchor.
It definitely frames cooperation as urgent. So after setting that big kind of unstable global scene, he then zoomed in on the common ground. He talked about them being two ancient civilizations in the East, the two most populous countries, and significantly important members of the global South. That last one feels really key right now.
Oh, absolutely. It's a cornerstone, calling themselves important members of the global South, that's loaded. It's not just geography. It's a political identity. It taps into shared histories, maybe, of colonialism, similar development goals, and this idea of a collective voice for countries that feel, let's say, underrepresented in the traditional world order. It's about building a kind of block, to push back against what they might see as Western dominance in global rules, security, things like that.
So it's unifying rhetoric. But, does that smooth over the fact that even within the global South, there are different interests and, frankly, competition for leadership?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It is unifying rhetoric, but yes, China, given its size and power, often implicitly positions itself as a leader within that group. India, though, has its own strong economy, its own democratic credentials, its own history of non-alignment. It definitely sees itself as a leader, too. So the challenge is finding that genuine common ground, that shared agenda, without it becoming a power struggle between them. It's a very delicate balancing act.
Right. And she actually talked about a historical responsibility that comes with this shared identity. What did he lay out there?
He was quite specific. First, obviously, improve life for their own people. That's baseline. But then he talked about promoting the solidarity and rejuvenation of developing countries. So it's bigger than just aid. It's about advocating for the whole group. And finally, this grand idea of propelling the progress of human society. It suggests their combined weight can actually help build a better, more equitable world order from their perspective.
That's a huge ambition, not just participating, but actively shaping things.
Exactly. It's a statement of intent.
Okay, so this leads us to maybe the most talked about part, how he actually defined the relationship they should have. He said it's the right choice to be friends who have good neighboring and amicable ties and partners to enable each other's success. Positive framing. But then came that phrase, the desire to have the dragon and the bounce together. What on earth does that mean?
Yeah, that one definitely caught people's attention. It's a really vivid and quite unique metaphor. The dragon, obviously, is China, a symbol of power, history, strength. The bounce, Well, that's more interpretive. But in context, it really suggests energy, dynamism, maybe India's rapid growth, its resilience, its ability to sort of spring forward.
So dragon and bounce together. It's not dragon versus bounce or dragon leading the bounce. It's side by side.
That seems to be the implication, yes. It suggests mutual growth, a dynamic interaction, not necessarily conflict or even a clear hierarchy, which is interesting because historically, there's always been that undercurrent of competition between them. Saying together like this, especially with bounce, implying India's own unique energy, it acknowledges India's rising status. It makes partnership seem necessary, not just desirable, for both their goals and maybe for the Global South's goals, too.
It's like saying we both bring something powerful and unique to the table. Let's make them work in concert.
Precisely. It suggests their successes can be amplified together rather than one diminishing the other. It hints at interdependence, almost. A more equal footing, perhaps.
That's a really nuanced message. And he grounded this future vision in history, too, right? Mentioning the anniversary.
Yes, he flagged the 70th anniversary of China-India diplomatic relations. And that wasn't just nostalgia. He used it to call for handling the relationship from a strategic height and with a long-term perspective to ensure sustained, sound, and steady development.
Strategic eye, what does that look like in practice? Getting above the day-to-day squabbles.
Exactly. It means looking beyond the immediate issues, border friction, trade figures, specific projects, and focusing on the bigger picture. Regional stability, global power shifts, their shared role. It implies a certain maturity, focusing on the forest, not just the individual trees.
And the long-term perspective. Planning for decades, not just election cycles.
Right. Building trust and structures that can withstand bumps in the road, both internal politics and external shocks. It suggests investing in the relationship consistently. Maybe that means better dialogue mechanisms, joint projects on big issues like climate, maybe coordinating more on global stages.
And he explicitly linked this to the global stage again, saying they must shoulder responsibility to uphold multilateralism, work towards a multipolar world, and seek more democracy in international relations.
Yes, and we need to be careful how we interpret those terms, because they might mean something slightly different to Beijing and Delhi than they do in, say, Washington or Brussels.
How so? What's their spin on multilateralism?
Well, it's often not just about supporting existing institutions, but about reforming them. They feel many global bodies reflect an old power balance and need to give more voice to the global south. And multipolar world isn't just about having multiple power centers. It's specifically about reducing the dominance of a single power, which they often perceive as the U.S. It's about leveling the playing field, making global governance more democratic from their standpoint, emphasizing sovereignty.
So it's an active reshaping agenda, not just joining the existing club.
Absolutely. And that leads to his final point. Their shared commitment to make new contributions to peace and prosperity in Asia and around the world. Again, not just empty words. It frames their partnership as being good for everyone, especially the region and the developing world. It's a claim to joint leadership.
Okay, this has been a fascinating dive. So pulling it together, the core messages seem to be, first, this clear sense of a world undergoing massive change. Second, this strong emphasis on a shared identity as key players in the global south with historical duties. Third, a vision for partnership summed up in that unique dragon and the bounce phrase, suggesting dynamic, mutual success. And finally, a commitment to not just navigate, but actively reshape the global order towards multilateralism and multipolarity viewed through their specific lens. And understanding this, it's critical because it's not just about these two countries. Their relationship, how it develops, has huge implications for global dynamics, for the developing world, for everyone, really.
It really does. And it leaves us with a compelling thought. Given this complex world, and Xi's quite specific vision for this dragon and bounce dynamic one that seems to acknowledge India's own independent rise, what's the next big thing they could actually tackle together? What's a challenge or an opportunity that, if they collaborated on it, would genuinely redefine their partnership and have a major impact, not just for them, but for the global south and maybe the whole structure of global governance? That's the question to ponder, I think. Where could this unique framing lead in practice?